Cake, an indie rock band from Sacramento, California, formed in 1991 with lead singer John McCrea. This band, although it is considered indie or indie rock, they are also often considered to be an alternative rock band, particularly because of the time period they were formed. But they are heavily influenced by new wave, post punk, and country. They have 6 studio albums, a rarities album, 2 EPs. It's notable that they've been working on a new album for the last 6 or 7 years and may have the album out this year, but we'll see. Their first studio album is called MOTORCADE of Generosity. This is considered to be a lo fi album. The first song that I'd recommend on this album is the best song on the album. It's called Comanche. It's a very quirky song, and it reminds me of a lot of their latter material that I generally like of their material. It's just kind of catchy, and it's just a very good song. It's not something I really liked when I first heard it, but it's the kind of song that kind of grew on me to a large degree. There's also a song called Jolene, which I describe as a 4-star standout. It's quirky in the same way, maybe a little bit of a different way, and it's kind of a quiet song, but it's interesting. Now, their second album, Fashion Nugget, is their most well known album, and when they became fairly famous. The opening song is called Frank Sinatra. It's a very quirky song with some odd instrumentals in it, but it's very interesting. It's again one of those songs that kind of grew on me over time, but I'd recommend it. It's very interesting. Their most well known song is called The Distance. And again, it's very quirky. It's got a great beat to it, and it's very catchy and interesting. This song, along with a lot of the music on this album, reminds me of the band Beck. I'd say the two bands are very not interchangeable, but they have a lot of similarities. They're difficult to categorize, and they both have very quirky songs across the gamut of their work. But there's another song I'd recommend on this album called I Will Survive. This is not a particularly long song. In fact, it's actually a cover of a Gloria Gaynor cover, I should say, although it's slower than the original song in the beat. It's a fairly good cover, though. They have a 4-star on here called Friend is a Four-Letter Word. It's worth listening to. It's kind of again, another quirky song. And they have a song called Daria, another 4-star. It's quirky, it's interesting. They have a couple other 4-stars, such as Stickshifts and Safety Belts, and another song called Perhaps, 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 another one called It's Coming Down, another one called Italian Leather Sofa. All these songs are, again, quirky and interesting. They all have an interesting beat to them. None of them really stand out compared to Comanche or The Distance or their cover of I Will Survive. The other song I would recommend on this album, though, is called Sad Songs and Waltzes. This is a Willie Nelson cover and one of his best songs. It's a quirky country cover done in their very indie style. And I just like the way they covered it, and it's a good song to begin with. And they took a good song, did it their own way, and made it interesting in a new way. So those three in particular, among all four, counting Frank Sinatra, are the real standouts of this album, which makes it a very good album and one of the ones I'd recommend buying outright. Now they have their next album, another album called Prolonging the Magic. There's a 4-star in the beginning called Satan is My Motor. It's quirky and weird. It's not fantastic, but it's interesting, like many of their odd, quirky songs. There is a really good song, though, called Never There. Again, it's quite quirky. There are a lot of great horn instrumentations in this song, and it's one of those songs that's going to get stuck in your head, and you're going to want to listen to it all the time. Whenever I'm listening to their music, it's one of the go-tos I go to, obviously. There's a 4-star called Guitar, another one called Let Me Go, which has some very interesting, varied guitar work where they're doing some instrumentations, but they're changing guitars with guitars that sound different from each other. The song is not utterly fantastic in itself, but it's interesting in the fact that it's different from what you usually hear. And they're trying different things that are just unique, more or less. Now, their next album is called Comfort Eagle. There are three 4-star songs I'd recommend, only as 4 stars. There's no great songs on this album. There's one called Opera Singer. There's another one, the title song called Comfort Eagle. And there's another song called Palm of Your Hand, all of which have kind of a quirky beat to them and they're interesting. But again, they don't stand out in comparison to The Distance or Never There or songs like their cover of I Will Survive, for example. They don't hit that level, but they're worth listening to at least. Now, their next album is called Pressure Chief. There is a fairly quirky song in the beginning called Wheels. It's very catchy, very interesting, and it's again one of those songs that kind of grew on me over time. It has a great bass beat to it that I noticed when I was kind of re-listening to it over and over again that catches me a little bit. There is a 4-star called Dime, which again with this band, they do a lot of quirky music. A lot of their songs sound different from each other, as if they're not really using a formula in the way they write music like many bands do. So this song stands out a little bit, but it's again not a great song. It's just good. And then there is a short and very simple song that's kind of soft called End of the Movie. It's only about a minute and a half long, and it's in the middle of the album. It has some really good acoustic work on it with an acoustic guitar. And to me, it's the strongest song on this album, and also one of the best songs of their entire discography. Now, their final album to date is called Showroom of Compassion. There are a number of 4 stars, such as Long Time, which has some unique background vocals, I'll put it that way. They have a 4-star instrumental song called Teenage Pregnancy, just a good, instrumental song. And then they have a song called Got to Move, which is one of their better songs on this album. It's called Slow. It's very slow and steady with kind of mildly catchy. And it's not quite as good as The Distance, but it's kind of up there. So I rate that a 5. And then they have a really good song called Sick of You. Again, it's quirky and interesting. And lastly, they have a song called Bound Away, which this song sounds like a country song. In fact, I'd describe it as alternative country. You could even hear the steel guitar being played. And I'm not a big fan of the steel guitar. I'm not a massive country fan either. But once in a while, you do hear a country song, or I've heard a country song that is surprisingly good. And this is one of those where it's a simple song, it's more country oriented, but it's a great song and really worth listening to. Now, they have 2 EPs, Wheels and Extra Value. I'll note that Extra Value has a Bert Kempfert, I can't pronounce his name very well, cover called Stranger of the Night, or Strangers in the Night. This is a good cover. It's interesting and worth listening to. Wheels is not particularly very good as an EP. Of their rarities, I would recommend their cover of War Pigs. It's kind of hard to make a bad cover of War Pigs because it's such a good song to begin with. Again, it's a Black Sabbath cover. I've heard a lot of covers of this particular song. And they also have a cover of the song Mana Mana, which has a couple different variations on its title. It was probably made famous by the Muppets, but it was written originally by an Italian guy named Piero Umiliani. And it's just a fun, unique song with more on the instrumentation side, but, there is technically some vocals in there just in the way they sing the song, and it's fun, and I'd recommend it. Now, overall, with their entire discography, I would rate Cake as a 4-star band out of 5. There's a couple of really strong albums here. They have a couple that are very so-so, but there's a lot of songs that are really catchy. And if you want to have some great music to listen to, overall, check out the 5 stars I've recommended in particular, and it's worth listening to. Guys, if you like my channel, I'd ask if you can like my videos and subscribe if you can. It really helps the algorithm, and I'll be putting out new material shortly.